Hey folks, good to see you again. I'm Scott Giles, a certified hypno coach and a certified diplomate of the National Guild of Hypnotists. I practice here in Illinois as a hypno coach, a combination of the hypnotic arts and sciences and life coaching. I work by webcam, phone, or in person here at the office. Before I even get into my topic today, which is envisioning a positive future and avoiding mistakes that some people make while they do that, I do want to read an email. I had offered in my newsletter, Power Lines, which you can subscribe to on my website, that anyone who had been my client could email me a question and that I would respond to it at this time. So I've got the very first one, and I'd like to share that with you and to answer it. This is from, I'm just going to call her Tammy, her first name. And Tammy was my client, 10, 12 years ago. And she says, Dear Dr. Giles, it was great to see your videos. I feel like we had gotten caught up after a long time. Be assured I am every bit of a spiritual badass now as when I was when we concluded our work. Now, what she's referring to there is my topic for this Facebook Live video session last week. A spiritual badass is a person who is spiritual but not pious and who walks their talk. And she very definitely is such a person. Then she says, when I first decided to consult you, I had no idea of what to expect. Could you go over that for others who may be wondering the same thing? And sure, Tammy, I'm happy to do that and glad you're doing so well. It's good to hear from you. Although in fact I am running a small business, my practice, I don't think of myself as a businessman. So I tend to be careless about the business side of my practice, and I appreciate the reminder. If you want to consult me, the best thing to do is to go to my website and sign up for the free, no obligation phone consultation. The system will guide you to set up a phone call when we're both present and available, and we'll talk for up to a half hour about your issues and see if we're a good match. Then we set up an intake session, and that's about an hour and a half, and we get your full history, your medications, your goals list, and also create a plan for our work together and do our first piece of hypnosis together. On the basis of your goals and your tested hypnotizability, I make a recommendation about which of our programs you should do. We will sell sessions one at a time if you want to do that, but that's the most expensive way to utilize our services. We make 3 programs available at different levels of intensity for different sorts of goals lists. And the programs consist of sessions with me, some sessions with Dr. Bates, who's our Reiki master teacher, email consultations or phone consultations between sessions, homework, recordings we provide, and it's a lot fuller. It's a much more comprehensive program. And it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at the other side of it, if you want to continue, you can. A lot of people go into kind of like a monthly support program, and that's fine. So that's how it works. But now, envisioning a positive future while avoiding mistakes that some people make. Now, whenever I talk to people about having a sense of the future, their future, sometimes they'll say, well, no. I live in the present moment. Well, I get that. In fact, at the Solid Gold Convention of the National Guild of Hypnotists this March, I'm going to be speaking in Las Vegas for 3 hours on mindfulness and how to use it. Living in the present moment is very important. But that doesn't mean you ignore the fact that you have a future. If you think about animals certainly are in the moment. But animals, nonetheless, are aware of a future. The squirrel stores up nuts. Animals fatten up to be able to get through the winter. And that's what we want to have happen. Pardon the howling cat in the background. He thinks I should not be working right now. I should be paying attention to him. So you want to live in the moment and not to get too far out ahead of the data, but you want to do that with some awareness of what your future is going to be. Now, I work extensively with people who are living with cancer. And one of the test questions I ask when I work with these people is, what do you see for yourself in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in the future? And what I've noticed is that a newly diagnosed cancer patient will almost always refuse to answer that question because they're not sure they're going to be alive. They're scared. So they don't want to imagine a positive future for themselves because they may not live to get there, and then they'll be disappointed. Well, of course, if you're not going to be alive, you're not going to be there to be disappointed. But I know a person living with cancer is doing well when they start to be willing to take the risk of imagining a healthy new normal, a positive future for themselves. And it's really important that we do that. Now, when we talk about the literature of the positive thinking movement, most people will think about some of the more popular New Age authors. But one of the principal founders of that whole movement was a man by the name of Napoleon Hill, back in the 30s and 40s. In fact, you may have heard one of his famous quotes, "What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve." I've read everything Napoleon Hill has written. And in fact, in my library, I have a leather-bound copy of his Laws of Success. And this was a personal gift to me from Clement Stone. Some of you may recognize that name. He was the president of Aon Insurance and one of the wealthiest men in America for a very long time. One of the things Hill always talked against and argued against is drifting. Letting your life just be changed and influenced overly by other people or by external events. He didn't want you to do that. He wanted you to be in charge of your life. So envisioning a future is how you take control of your life, or an important step. But there's a problem. And that problem is the negative brain. The biochemistry of the brain is wired in such a way that it favors a negative expectation. Fear makes a creature cautious. Cautious creatures tend to live and reproduce, so the fearful gene gets passed on through evolution. So negative thoughts, fearful thoughts, are the default setting in the human brain at this time. Most of the chemicals your brain uses to regulate its functioning are in fact involved with the transmission of fear. So if you don't want to expect a negative future, there are things you have to do deliberately with your conscious mind to overcome this biological predisposition to favor a negative expectation. And in my practice, we address that straightforwardly. There are specific homework assignments and so on that I assign clients, or exercises I lead them through here in the office to help shift the focus so that the focus is on the good things, the things that you want to happen. And if you don't do something like this, your future vision will be about what you're afraid might happen instead of what you want to happen. You'll say, I don't want to be poor, instead of saying, I want to be financially comfortable. You'll say, I don't want to be sick, instead of saying, I want to enjoy good health. You'll say, I don't want to be alone, instead of saying, I want to have a loving companion. You'll say, I don't want to be unhappy. I want to be happy and enjoy my life, is the proper way to put that. So you have to deliberately do something. And there's a technique that anyone can use. And I want to recommend that if you don't have a vision board, that you go and create one. Props are helpful. We're physical creatures. And physical creatures do well by paying attention to physical things. There's a theologian by the name of Thomas More, not the medieval guy, the more modern one, who wrote a book some years back called The Re-Enchantment of Everyday Living. And what he argued is that we needed to put in our world, our environment, what he calls amulets and talismans. Amulets are things that physically represent something positive, like a lock of a lover's hair. Talismans are things that are more symbolic. But he felt we needed to have these to keep ourselves reminded of good stuff, keep our mind in a positive, hopeful direction. And hypnotists know that these are anchors. They remind us, like a string tied around the finger, to maintain a certain frame of mind. Like I wear biker jewelry. To this day, I no longer ride a motorcycle, but my years with the motorcycle club were among the most positive times in my life. So I wear this jewelry as an anchor, as a talisman to keep me in touch with who I became during those years. Well, a vision board is a way of doing that. You simply get a pegboard or a corkboard. If you want to have a physical one, I personally use an iPhone app, and there are some great ones out there. And then you put pictures up, or words or symbols on this vision board of what you want in your future. And you periodically go back to it and look at that thing. I try to look at my vision board 3 or 4 times in the course of a week. But there's a trick here, and a mistake I've seen a lot of people who make vision boards not understand and end up doing themselves some harm. Whatever you put on that vision board that you want to help your mind conceive and believe has to be at least 50% believable. If you put something on the vision board that isn't believable, it's going to do more harm than good. I'm a martial artist, a multiple black belt in Taekwondo. But I was also a younger man when I earned those black belts. I could not aspire to be a Taekwondo master with these huge aerial kicks anymore, given my present physical condition. So a photograph of someone doing a spinning double back kick would not be good on my vision board because I know that that's not believable. But I practice a form of Kung Fu now that is much gentler on my aging body. And so something about a Kung Fu Sifu might be appropriate for me. I like cars, but putting a Lamborghini up on my vision board is ridiculous. I like to drive a nice car. I drive a Mini Cooper, but I would never spend $300,000 on a darn car. So putting a Lamborghini up on the vision board is ridiculous because it wouldn't be even half believable. So you want to have a vision for your future. You want that vision to be positive about what you want, not about what you're afraid might happen. And finally, use props. They help a lot. But make sure that what you're reminding yourself to remember, to look forward to, is at least half believable. Thank you very much for being here. As always, I'll be back next week with a similar program, and that program is going to be about the dangers of having expectations of other people. If you want to know more about my work, feel free to reach out to me. My website is www.c, as in Charles, my first name, S, as in Scott, my middle name, and then my last name, giles.org. I'm a nonprofit organization, not a commercial business. Thank you much. Take care.